Welcome to our Spirituality of Sexuality course, Sexual Love as a Spiritual Experience. I am, once again, Father Laston Robert Lupopa, SJ. Today we are looking at the historical perspectives, an overview of the history of sexuality in the Judeo-Christian tradition, and in particular in the Roman Catholic Church. Remember what we said, that the Roman Catholic Church is one of the oldest institutions in the world, and as such, we just have to refer to how it impacted the lives of the people, especially in this area of sexuality. Human sexuality has been a subject of extensive study, research, reflection, and debate for many years. This may be due to radical changes in sexual attitudes and behavior patterns taking place in today's society, especially after the sex revolution of the 1960s. Much of the interest in a subject such as human sexuality may also be due to its many dimensions. When I was doing the studies with Kevin McClone, he names 6 dimensions, that is psychosexual development dimensions of human sexuality, and these are biological, cognitive, emotional, social, moral, and spiritual dimensions. These dimensions of sexuality make it an interesting subject of investigation from the points of view of many disciplines. The Church has always been interested in the moral and spiritual dimensions of sexuality, as we are going to explore in this course. When we look at the statistical yearbook of the Church of 2002, I have to update my records. It was estimated at that time that there were 1 billion Catholics in the world, out of the world's population of 6 billion. We are more than 7 billion now. It is interesting to note how the Roman Catholicism, both in the past and present, continue to mold Western values and morality. Therefore, we are discussing the history of sexuality, of human sexuality in the Judeo-Christian traditions, as well as their impact on the secular world. This is evidenced by the influence of Christian leaders on the shaping of policies and politics in different countries down through the centuries. Consequently, the belief system of such a vast number of people is very significant, as they would in turn impact them on the vast number of people on the world, as they would in turn impact them on the world. Accordingly, all that the Church pronounces as official teaching for its own people, its own members, not only shapes the lives of Catholics, but to a great extent reaches beyond them to the world at large. This is especially true when we look at the history of sexuality in the Church. The history of human sexuality reveals that many lives have been affected by the Church's teachings on sexuality, even to the extent of dividing many Catholics in their allegiance to the Church, as reflected in issues on contraception, homosexuality, and ordination of women. Currently, we don't even discuss ordination of women. It is a no-go area. Perhaps we ought to remind ourselves here that the history of sexuality is not confined to the Judeo-Christian tradition alone, but to antiquity. Ranke Heinemann, this is one of the books that you have to read explores this truth and offers us a dazzling survey of the Church's attitude to human sexuality from antiquity to the present. In it, she discusses the development of the non-Catholic, non-Christian roots of Christian sexual pessimism and shows how Christianity and the Church have continued to be influenced by them. For instance, she cites the case of the Greek Pythagoras in the 6th century before Christ, who is reported to have said that a person should indulge in sex in winter, but not in the summer, make moderate use of it in the spring and autumn, but that it was harmful to health in every season. Reviewing the history of sexuality in this chapter will not only help us in our task of finding a spirituality of sexuality by providing a background to our discussion, but will also bring into focus the current discussions on the significance of human sexuality and its vast social implications. This is important when we think about the rapidly expanding populations in less developed nations, the prevalence of sexually transmitted diseases such as HIV, AIDS, and the sanctioned abuse of women in many societies. So we will end here. When we come back in the next class, we're going to look at the sources, how sexuality has been treated in the scriptures. Remember, we're talking about Judeo-Christian. Judeo-Christian, we are looking at the Jewish culture, which has given us the scriptures. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Bible says about human sexuality. We're going to go into discussion in our Zoom meeting, and we are focusing on what we have just put into context. For instance, what is your take on the discussion on contraception? Have you used contraceptives? If you are a Catholic, what is your position on contraceptives? What about homosexuality? I know here in Africa this is not discussed, but our friends seem to have evolved, and they talk about these things, and they have labeled them as rights, that people have got a right to associate, to be in intimacy regardless of gender. So a man and a man can even seek legal protection in that relationship. Where are you in this perspective? The ordination of women. In this group, we have Catholics and non-Catholics. We have seen ministers, women ministers, evangelists, priests in the Anglican Church, women who are pastors. What about in the Catholic Church? What do you think about that? That is what we can discuss when we get into Zoom. As for now, it's ciao. Thank you very much for watching and listening. God richly bless you. Bye-bye.